Welcome to Fly on the Wall, a podcast where you have the opportunity to listen in on a live coaching conversation. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And now for today's episode.
What can we dive into today? How can I serve you today?
So, man, so for today, I guess I want to go about, still, and we've talked about this before even, about finding ways to drive people to our early service. Because even though we're in a brand new building, our second service is already, we got overflow. So, and then our first service, man, the people who attend it love it. They don't, if we talk about moving that service or something, they go crazy. I mean, they love that service. But there's, you're talking the difference between 300 at one service and 60 at the other.
Yeah.
And so I would love for that. And the thing about that is that service has grown. The early service has grown. It's most of our more, I just call it what it is, our older people and that like it. But, but there's starting to be some young families that attend that. And so the service is growing. I think we just need to find a way to increase that and to concentrate more, hit that harder on promoting or getting people to come to that service.
Yeah. That always becomes tough, man. When you start going into 2 services or 3 or 4 services, there's always that one that just, kind of struggles and you try to get it to that next level. Have you tried, and the only thing I know to do, because I don't have some big magic, recipe to help make it happen. But the one thing that I have found to be good is when, let's say, in this case, you got 301, 60 in another. And is there a way, and you maybe have tried it, I don't know, it'd be one-on-one, I don't know if it'd be in groups, I don't know if it'd be whatever, but is there a way to get 60 or 70 people to say, for the next 6 months, we'll go to the first service?
Right.
That's the only thing I've ever seen work. But if you put a short term on it and just say, hey man, would you commit to go to this first service just for 6 months so we can get some momentum? Because once the momentum gets going and some of those people make relationships in that first service, they'll just probably keep going to it.
Right.
If you tell them, will you do it forever? They'll tell you no. If you'll say you'll do it for 6 months, they'll probably tell you yes. At least some would. But that is probably the best thing that I've seen, because move them over, tell them it's just 6 months. Don't tell them when the 6 months is up, because they'll probably just keep going. But it allows the momentum to pick up.
To keep rolling. And I think one of the challenges that we have in that causes the big discrepancy isn't so much time or anything. It's that those services are not identical. So looking back, don't know if that would have been something we do. We do one that's acoustic and kind of real quiet. And one's literally called TRCC Loud, right? Where it's full band and all that. So so the services are different. So I've got to get the people who wouldn't mind, who, and the funny thing is you have people who are so they're just so grooved into that quiet, easier going service, and then there's just so many more people that come in and they want the energy and the louder, more younger style is what it is.
What
the message is the same.
What time are the services?
It's at 9 and 10:45.
Well, something for you to consider if you're talking about, and I'm sure you've already thought about this, either A, you get some people, like you said, 60 people that may be more prone to that more laid back style, get them over there for 6 months, see if you can create some momentum and go there. Or B, you launch from the second service, a third service.
Yes, that's what we've kind of been maybe more thinking of, and do it. And the third service would be identical to the second.
Well, because what you have happening there is you've got sort of this modern feel, modern music, modern whatever you want to call it, and that's attracting people. But you do have a remnant of people in your area, both in your church but also in your area, that don't want that. They're more laid back, and that's fine too. But that service, now here's the thing, that service at 9 o'clock would probably survive moving it to 8:30. Maybe because they're more laid back and they don't want all the loud noise, and they're probably up early anyway.
I think it absolutely would survive at 8:30.
So if whenever I see someone do an 8:30 service, we say, okay, well, it'll be 8:30, 10, and 11:30. We keep the
Right.
services around an hour and 5 minutes, and we rotate traffic in between. Now, if you're going to go second to third service, if that's what you guys' choice would be, I'd move it to 8:30, move that one to 10 o'clock, move the other one to 11:30, because you're moving that 10:30 to 10, right? Right now, is
Yeah.
it 9 and 10:30?
It's 10:45. It's
10:45.
9 and
Gotta move it.
10:45.
Yeah, you're moving exactly in between. You're going from 10:45 to 11:30 or 10:45 to 10.
Yeah.
You're moving 45 minutes either way. So you're probably going to get a little bit of a split. Now, if I were you doing that, I would take the 300 people and say, okay, how do we divide up? How do we get at least 100? We might not get a perfect 150, 150, but can we get 100 and 200? And if we can get that, then I would, if it was me, I would move that way for sure.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then I would just kind of be okay with, you know what, 8:30 is a handful of people. It's 60 people, still a lot of people, but it's not never going to be as big as the other ones, but it meets a need. And
Right. Absolutely.
so I would consider doing that, but I think you need to shift the times.
And my other fear with that, though, here's the other fear with that, which no advice you can give me on this. I'm just telling you is if we go to 2 services like that off of the 10:45 and we get one that grows as large as that, like we struggle right now. Our parking is so bad. So we almost need another 10 minutes to get everybody cleared out, because I can pull off the small service in between and the big service coming in. But if I have two big services that I need to flip out of that parking lot, I mean, Chris, dude, we got people parking in the grass, pulling 2 inches from our lake, all in the back, everywhere. I mean, we got cars everywhere. I mean, it looks like it sometimes it's just amazing. It's like, did everybody drive their self? It's like, I think every single person drove their car by themselves. Even the preschoolers drove their own cars.
Well, you're doing an awesome job. God's doing amazing things. And we've been coaching with you for years now. And it's been an amazing journey watching what God's doing. I think that is the next natural step. I think that one of the things is you would have to just get very, very, very tight on your services. There is no room for going over. You're just going to have to really tighten it and stay to it. And that's just the way it is. Like whatever that is, hour and 5 minutes or whatever, but you're going to have to stay to it. That's the only way to make it survive. But you don't want to let the fear or the fight to stick with your schedule interfere with a couple hundred more people getting to the church and finding Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we stick pretty close to our services now are an hour and 10 minutes. And we stick pretty close to that. Now we don't have to, obviously, on the second service at this point, because there's nobody else coming in. So we've got freedom there. But other than that, we still stick pretty close to it.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would really consider going to that third service. I'd consider changing the times, stick to your schedule as tight as possible, and then just go from there. But these are the right problems you want to have, man. You're
right. Yeah, good problems, right?
Yeah, these are a lot different than the first day we met. So
yeah.
Look what God has done.
Try to get anybody in the parking lot.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. What else you got?
And then the other thing I got, man, is I need to, and this is just something mainly kind of pastorally advice really from you. So, but we need an effective way to help and to deal with leaders who are struggling. And because of whatever personal struggles they have, right? For some reason, as humans, what we tend to do when we struggle, we disconnect. And so what happens there is things start not getting done. And we want them to know we support them, but at the same time, I need your stuff to get done, right?
Right.
Things that happen. And so, what do we do? How do you deal with your leadership team when that the things that are not getting done the way you want them are not because they're mad or disgruntled or because they're mean or because they're lazy. It's because they're struggling. How do we help them and, not grow frustrated with them and not want to, how do you deal with your team when you have things like that?
That's a great question, Brian. I think you need to consider, and I don't know all the situations, we don't need to get into all the situations, but a few things I would consider. One, do they really even need to be in ministry right now? Like, is there something happening in their marriage and their family and their personal life that's causing them to not be focused, to not be able to give the energy and time that they volunteer and give? And so you want to be able to look at that and think, maybe they don't need to be in ministry, and maybe the right thing to do as the shepherd, the right thing to do as a shepherd to the sheep is, I got to give them some rest. So that might be, I'm not saying that's the situation. I would bet that once in a while, that's the situation where you need to step in and say, love you, you're awesome. This leadership position will always be here for you. Why don't you take a few months and just relax? Because I know you're going through a lot in your marriage or whatever it is.
Right.
I would say that'd be one thing. If it's not a situation where it's about health, maybe they're not, you know what I mean? They're not, maybe it's not about health as in like, you know, maybe there's a challenge physically or emotionally or financially or relationally, whatever. If there's not a challenge there, then you have a different issue. You might have a capacity issue. So maybe it has nothing to do with the personal life. It's just a capacity issue. Like, they're not really, they don't even have the capacity in their own skill set or ability to even accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Right.
So you're going to get frustrated. It's like if you and I were out at the basketball court, I doubt neither one of us can slam dunk a basketball. I know I can't. And so you would look at me, you could get mad at me all you want as a coach and go, you need to slam dunk a basketball, Sonksen. And I'll be like, it's just never going to happen, Brian. It's not in my capacity. Now move that over to leadership. I'm frustrated at Joe and Susie. Yeah, but you're expecting them to do this, and it's just not going to happen. Right. And so I think once you get past if they're a personal struggle and they might need a break, you got to look and say, man, do I got the right people in the right seat? Because it might be a situation that their capacity is just not there. Right. And now either I put the wrong person in, or and that could be an issue altogether, or I need to adjust where they're at on the bus. But it could be a capacity issue, which is really frustrating because as a pastor, you're getting frustrated. They're feeling like they might be feeling like, you know, I don't know, letting you down, or they're not feeling like they're winning. It's a lose-lose situation. But what I wouldn't definitely not do, Brian, is, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I wouldn't ignore it. I would sit down with Joe and Susie, let's call them, and just say, hey, here's what's kind of expected in the role. Here's what's been happening. Can you speak into that? That phrase, Brian, whenever you're confronting someone, whenever you're confronting maybe, or whenever you're investigating what's going on with a leader, maybe it's not confronting, but investigating, that phrase, can you speak into it? It is such a non-threatening phrase versus, hey, this is what I'm really looking for. You guys aren't hitting it. And I need you to hit it, or otherwise, you know, we got to talk something else. Like, that's just defense. But if you're like, here's where I need you to be, it's not quite happening. Can you speak into that for me?
Yeah.
That's a really non-offensive way to let them start talking. Then you can make a decision. Either they just need to take a break, or they're just not the right people for this place or position.
Right. And the situations that I've come across, and it's not even that I have any going on right now, but you know, I'm talking more of situations where there's definitely, I've had health situations, which obviously there's nothing the person can do about that. Right. And you just show them grace, and you know, everybody pitches in and does what we can. And the other ones have been not things like that I don't know, let's say sin. It's stuff it's not sinful. It's, you know, I've never had an issue so far, thank God, where there's, you know, marital issues that are where someone's doing something wrong. I mean, these are just issues that these are just life. And you know, maybe someone's, I'm just going to make something up, maybe someone lost a parent and they're you know, struggling with it, or a child. Yep. And they're struggling with it. You know, I don't want to go in at them like a wrecking ball because things aren't happening, when, you know, I want to go in and, man, I definitely want them to know that I love them, and that, yeah, I don't want them to be pushed out of ministry that I honestly feel they're called to. Yep. But, you know, but I know there's just a hump in front of them. And
Yep.
so I think the answer that I guess I'm looking for is pray for them, obviously, you know what I mean?
Right.
And definitely, and I totally agree though, because I've had issues like we're discussing too. I have had capacity issues, I've really had to look at myself and say, I have to stop expecting to get out of people what God never put in them in the first place. And
Yep.
so that's one thing that's helped me greatly in leadership. If you set your expectations according to, like you said, higher than their capacity, everybody's just always going to be frustrated. So yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Awesome.
Well, and I'll paint one more stroke of paint over this picture for you and for anybody that's watching the podcast. Is I think that's why it's so important to do everything you can to put the right people in up front.
Right.
Sometimes it's just like, oh, I love that guy. He's going to be there. They're going to be there. They're going to do this. They're going to do this. And then now it's like, now I got to tell them, I mean, I would never say it like this. You would never say it like this. But now I got to pretty much tell them, you don't have the capacity. You don't measure up. You got to go somewhere else. Now we know that they might get offended. It might cause an issue. They might get their feelings hurt. And I'm not saying all of it can be avoided, but some of that can be avoided by just backing up and going, okay, wait a minute. Before we put anybody into position of any sort of leadership, let's make sure that the right people at the right time doing the right job. And
right.
Is one thing that I always tell people. It's a lot easier to divorce someone before you get married. So don't put them into a position, and then because you're going to create that conflict with them, and it's unfortunate because they're going to get their feelings hurt. So that's why I always say up front, do your best to vet the person, to think about it, to make sure that they're the right person for the right role. Make sure that they've kind of proven themselves that they can handle it. Otherwise, you set yourself up for a very possible difficult conversation, possible difficult circumstance. Who knows? Then they leave the church, they get upset at you. But anyway, I just always go to, just be careful. Here's one thing I've always said in business: hire hard, manage easy.
Yeah.
Hire hard is, I don't just throw people in positions. I really think it through. I really talk to them. And if I take the time to kind of hire, although they're volunteers, but if I take the time up front, it's a lot easier to manage. But if I throw people into position, it's a lot more difficult to manage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something to keep in mind. But what else, man? We got a few minutes left. Anything else you want to chat about?
Man, that's really all I got. I mean, we still have the same old struggle that every pastor probably asks when it comes on. How do we get new people to give? How do we get more money? How do we, how do we get more growth? But, man, we're doing, I really can't complain at this point, man. We thank God right now. We're just rolling so good. And that's one thing, you told me in the beginning is, it's like, once you get it running, once you can't turn the Titanic on a dime, but once you get it swinging the right direction, and that's what we're seeing. We've seen that here over the last, 4 to 5 years. And we weren't one that turned on a dime, and it's taken us some time and some work, and it took God putting some people in the right place at the right time. And man, it's just, so we're just really feel like we're steamrolling right now, man. We're growing in an age where churches are not growing. We see new faces every week. And I'm just thankful for that at this point, at the rate that churches are closing, and at the rate that people are saying that they don't do church anymore, and how this generation has came up. I'm definitely feel blessed and in a good position.
Good. Well, dude, I'm proud of you, bro. I'll never forget us meeting for the first time in Florida. And just, you were pretty discouraged that day, and just watching what God has done, and so honored that, there's some of our fingerprints on that ministry, and that we've been able to partner with you over these months and years, and just continuing to watch God do incredible things. So keep up the good work, dude. Tell your wife I said hello, and thanks for being on the call today, brother. And anything I can
absolutely
do, always here to serve.
All right, man. We love you, man.
Love you too, bud. We'll see you, man.
All right, bye.
Thanks for stopping by today. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to be on the lookout for more podcasts from Fly on the Wall. See you next time.